afternoon. Well, the markets remain painfully quiet, but we'll see. Again, you don't know when they'll pick up. My guess is that we're going to be slow until the election. Although the betting odds continue to favor Trump. It's been a dramatic turnaround since last I showed you the odds screen. I'll just give you a quick peek at it right now. This is a pretty big favorite for an election. 150 favorite over Kamala, whatever the hell her name is. But at the end of the day, that this is what we're watching, and I think that's the kind of markets are kind of waiting for the election. I don't know that obviously for a fact, but I can't figure out why we're so slow, anyways. But again, we don't fight the markets. We use positions to take advantage of the markets, the way they trade. And as long as we're preparing ourselves to be in the advantageous spot, we just have to be able to deal with the drawdowns when they show up. But, listen, there's not a lot of good things happening around this country at the moment. Debt is through the roof. We've got major issues with our number one ally in the Middle East, who nobody gives a shit about. Not a good situation. But at the end of the day, again, it is what it is. We have to be able to adjust. We have to be able to adjust going into it. Okay, it doesn't matter what we think, it matters what the market tells you. Do you think they will tell the truth about the economy if Trump wins? I think the truth is already out. Okay, I think Trump has told you what he thinks of the economy, and again, I don't really care what somebody tells me. This goes back to an argument I have with many people many times. Okay, and this is very simple. Okay. It's not what I think the economy is. It's not what you think the economy is. It's how are you affected? Okay. Now, some of you have no issue with the economy and you're doing just fine. But I would say the majority are suffering through a very, very bad economy. Inflation is back on the rise once again. We have issues once again. I mean, crude oil is twice as much as it should be, which means you're paying more for gas. The interest rates, I don't know if you've noticed, but when the rate cut came, okay, back on, I think it was September 18th, the 10-year notes were 3.4. As of this minute, hold on, I gotta look it up, the exact number. Okay, as of this minute, the 10-year note is 4.182. Do you understand how big a move that is in the bond market? Okay, for you, it's never been slower, and I'm sure. And again, this is why I say economists are worthless. Okay, because again, they're not going to tell you the facts or the truth. They're going to tell you because they all have an edge and an angle for why they say what they say. It's the same as the idiots and the assholes that are on TV. Okay. Now, I'm one of them, but the one difference between me and the others, okay, is I am the only one that trades his own money. I'm not an advisor. I'm not putting things out there for anybody. I am the only one on TV that trades his own money, that manages his own account. Okay. I trade nobody else's money. So they all have an angle of why they tell you what they tell you. Okay. But again, in the meantime, as you're noticing, volume continues to drop. Okay. We continue to see a lack of participation, and the big bell that should be ringing off to all of you is, why is there such a lack of participation in the market? Anybody got a guess? I mean, again, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. Again, I'm trying to get you to think like a trader. I'm trying to get you to think like a more sophisticated investor. What's your thoughts? Why are the markets so slow Okay, and I mean they're grinding higher, and the direction doesn't matter. But they're, in my opinion, again, this is an opinion. This is not necessarily fact. Okay, complacency could be it. Could be the answer. Okay, I believe. Okay, liquidity is drying up. Also, both great answers. Okay, I believe, and again, it doesn't make me right. Okay, there isn't enough new buying and selling. Those are three great answers, and I think that the trouble is because the economy is so weak. Okay, that you're not getting the participation, and because people are because there's less people working right now, and there's been a lot of layoffs. There's a lot less people putting their money into their 401ks and into their IRAs. Now, again, remember, you notice how the markets always jump in volume on the opening. Like that is almost invariably always into 401k money, that type of money. Well, you haven't seen very big volumes that we've seen. You always see a little bit bigger, but you haven't seen huge volume because I don't think many people can afford to participate right now. Their debt is so high, okay, then they really can't afford to invest. Does that make sense? I mean, remember this. If you have credit card debt, okay, then you should never invest. You should pay your credit card debt first because your actual return is much bigger by paying off your credit card debt first, right? Because uh, you can't overcome the issue. Okay, does that make sense to you? You know, again, if you're paying 25% and you're getting a 10% yield, well, you're net losing 15%. Okay, and that's not what we can do. So, you know, even my son, who's an advisor, those who know that he tells his people the first thing you got to do is pay off your debt. Okay, because the debt is the more expensive than what you're ever going to get returned. And again, whether you're a Kamala Harris fan or not, I don't care. Okay, vote. Voting is 2 weeks from the. Well, it's already started. I already voted, but voting is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Make sure you vote. I don't care who you vote for. Look, again, I don't want to see the Kamala, the communist, win. I think that would be disastrous for this country. But I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm not going to tell you what you should think. If you're happy with what's going on here, hey, who am I to tell you? Okay, but you can certainly agree that the scandals that we've seen with the media is not very good for you and me. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. Whichever side you're voting for, I believe we can all agree that what's going on in this country today is not very good. Okay, and maybe it's because we're soft. Maybe it's there's a whole myriad of reasons of why we could be why we are. But be prepared when you buy your Halloween candy because it's going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than it's been in the past. Okay, because obviously the price is going up, and I'm going to throw a question out there, and I hope nobody takes offense to it. But we all know about the human trafficking and the sex trafficking and the child trafficking that goes on through this country from other countries, right? Does everybody recognize that? Okay, no, I have a theory. Okay, now again, I'm a conspiracy guy, anyways. I'm a believer of the cabal, and I'm a believer of the deep state. Okay, so do you think that government officials are on the take and let this go by and turn a blind eye to it? And I'm not saying whether Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. Okay, do you think they turn a blind eye to a lot of that stuff, and that therefore that's why they're allowing people to come in on the border? Okay, because they're getting paid off to let it happen. Does anybody think I'm out of my mind? Besides, you already know that I'm out of my mind. All about money and control. That's what I think. Okay. So at the end of the day, again, we got a lot of problems. We got a lot of issues in this country. Now, again, is President Trump, is he the salvation? I don't know. But he certainly can't be any worse than what we're watching right now. That's just my opinion. Slavery is the oldest business in the world. Yeah. Ties right into the other oldest profession in the world. Right? Okay. I mean, because they were like slaves. So again, I just don't think that things get any worse than they are now. And certainly I think that when things are not what you think they should be, a change should be made. Okay. Again, that's just my opinion. That's my public service announcement for today. Connie, I know you're always ready, but I will always, I do give you the benefit of asking to make sure. Okay. Now I'm going to start off with the VIX because somehow I moved it up to the top. The VIX was up a little bit today, but it wasn't up very much. Again, remember what I said last week. This was probably going to be the peak, and now we're going to churn around. And until we get volatility, and I don't think there's going to be any real heavy movement in this market, and probably till election night. Okay. Again, I'm going to trade the election. Okay, and those who trade futures with me, if I do it, I will invite you, and you will come along with me. But again, I think that we're going to be churning back and forth. Okay, and I really believe that the only way we're going to get any real action is a market has to sell off. Okay, and again, I'm not saying it will. I do believe the top is in. That doesn't mean it's going down tomorrow. Okay, in the meantime, the dollar continues to charge higher. So with all the news and all everybody crying and shrying about the dollar is the end, or the other countries are switching, well, the dollar is still going higher, and it has broken out. Now we don't trade anymore, and I remind you, it's not because we have anything against the dollar. It's simply a dollar and cents issue of how much it costs to trade it. It is breaking out. I would think, and I said this last week, so not to be misread or misled, I did say that I would look to be a seller last week. Okay. But it didn't break down. Okay. Now we would still be long if we were turning it, but we don't. But at the end of the day, okay, obviously it's very overbought. Okay, which means that the euro currency, which we are long, is going to be oversold. But I think from here, you're looking at now, there's a shot to reach 105, and I think the support is at 103. And I do not believe that support will hold. That's just simply based on we're so dramatically overbought. Okay, it's going up there because we're still the strongest because of all the nonsense. The sell-off was probably on the rumor about the other nations leaving the US dollar. Okay. And of course, there's an old saying in the business, buy the rumor, sell the news, or sell the rumor, buy the news. Either way. Okay. So the talk was out. Once it came out that there was some unrest. Remember, not all, just because they talk a big game doesn't mean they can afford to be without the United States. Okay. So the euro currency, again, we are long it. It is going down. It's the exact opposite. I would expect a pretty sharp rally here. And it didn't come last week, but I would suggest to you that I would expect to see at some point this week a penny or two move, which is 100 points, which is $1,250 a contract. I think there's a pretty sharp rally that's going to come from this at some point. Again, when, I don't know, but I do think we're extremely oversold. Now, again, this could be the start of the bottoming process to see it push back higher. I think from a level standpoint, I think you're looking at 108, okay, 108 to 110. Now, I'm giving you wider ranges, and the reason I have to give you wider ranges now is because the lack of activity in the market means that it will take very little to push markets dramatically in one way or the other. Okay. The notes continue to get hammered. And as I said last week, I said there'd be a rally. There it is. And I would expect another rally. I would be looking for a spot to buy notes and bonds. And I think interest rates are going higher. But I do believe that we've seen an overdone move to the downside in the futures and the upside of rates. I think that they're going to have to come down with rates. It has nothing to do with the Federal Reserve. Remember that when the Fed cuts rates, you all know that they're not cutting rates for you. Does everybody understand that? The Fed is not cutting rates for you? Because this is important to understand. Okay. So if you don't understand, say it, because I want to make sure that everybody gets this whole fact of what the interest rate market is really telling you. Okay. They're cutting the rate to the bank. The federal funds are what banks borrow to then turn out and lend. Okay. The banks work on a spread. So if they're borrowing at 4.5% and lending to you at 8%, they're making 3.5 points for no risk. Okay. That's basically what it comes down to. Okay. So just because they cut rates doesn't mean that your interest rate is coming down. Okay. And in fact, mortgages have gone up 4 or 5 times since the big Fed rate cut. Okay. In the meantime, I think you're looking at 111, okay, to 113. 111 to 113 in the notes. And the bonds, same thing. In fact, the bonds are a little bit oversold more than you would think. I would suspect that now 118 should be some support. And as much as I hate bonds, I don't ever like to buy them, but as much as I hate them, okay, I'll be looking to add to my position down here somewhere. Okay, this is just total trash. Okay, throw the baby out with the bathwater, and there's going to be a sharp rally at some point here. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's this week. I don't know if there's enough data this week to bring it. Let me just take a quick look. Existing home. Beige book could do something, I guess. There's so much Fed speak. PMI is this week, durable goods. So you could get something. But again, this Fed speak is getting nauseating. I mean, I had never seen this much Fed speak in all the years I was on the floor. I didn't see this much Fed speak that we see in a week now. Okay. So anyways, Bitcoin, Bravo Tango Charlie, trying to break out. Very overbought. We're short. Okay. Again, I would suspect now 68,000 is in play. Your next resistance, I think, is 72. And I think your support is now 64 to 72. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought I gave them, but you're probably right. I know I probably didn't. I was drawing it in 118 to 122. 118 to 122. And Bitcoin is 64 to 72. Okay. And again, really, when you look at the bigger picture, all you're seeing is a big vacillation of wide sweeping consolidation. No November rate cut. Rates continue up, bonds down. I don't think the rate cut really matters. Again, this is where we find out. This is what the markets are really telling you here now is that the Federal Reserve is full of shit, which is what I've always told you. Okay. They don't have any interest in you. They have only interest in the banks. Okay. And there's a dramatic demand for money because everybody's bust. Okay. Not everybody, but for a big portion of the population is bust and can't make their payments. So you don't think the rates are going to come down at the retail end. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're Elon Musk and you want to borrow money, you'll get pretty good rates. Okay. But if you're the average guy in the street, you're not getting such good rates. Okay. But I think that the Fed realizes that they made a mistake because inflation is skyrocketing, if you haven't noticed. Okay. We're back up flying again. Gold, again, very much overbought. Okay. As we said, remember last week we said there wasn't much to do, but we would expected a run to around 27. Well, we got to 2750. And I do think that 2750 is going to be resistance. I think there's still an outstanding shot that it gets back to 2600. Again, it got nothing to do with it. I love gold. Okay. I'm not negative gold. I'm just telling you that there's going to be a day where you're going to see some dramatic selling. Okay. And it has nothing to do, somebody's going to get spooked for whatever reason. And then they're going to start to sell, and then it'll be a little bit of an avalanche, and then it'll come back. And I think, to me, 2600, okay, 2650 would be a spot to start looking. Okay. It has nothing to do if you're looking to buy physical, because if you haven't heard me say it before, I do believe there's a potential that you may need physical metals as a currency at some point with what's going on. So we'll see. Silver continues to spike higher. Okay. Now we have no position in it right now. Okay. But again, I think that you probably have a shot to reach 35, which was my annual prediction all along anyways. I think you're now 32 to 35 in silver. Now I would certainly, gold levels were 2,600 to 2,750. Silver, is 32 to 35, but I would say this about silver. Okay. This is going up too fast. Not that it can't continue, but you're in the back-to-back double blow-off levels here. My issue with silver, for most people, it's very hard to trade because it's such a big product. Okay. But certainly you could look at, trying to use one of the ETFs or whatever if you want to. And I'm not encouraging you to sell it. I mean, I'm a believer. I'd rather wait for a pullback and be a buyer. But if you're trying to trade both sides, you can expect more likely a little bit of a pullback here. Okay. And certainly, I think your first pullback would be right to where we broke out from, which is like 32.50. Okay. Platinum, which we don't trade, again, trying to break out as well. So we've seen that pretty consistently in the metals. They're trying to break out. And again, I think now Costco selling platinum as well. And I think that, again, I think people are starting to buy it. They're starting to realize that they may need it. But platinum, I think we're 980 to 1040. Copper, okay, which is, again, pretty much a little bit oversold, but not dramatically. But again, it's really just kind of turning around. And fact of the matter is, you could make a case for silver almost being in that cup and handle type of pattern. Again, I try to use this as a benchmark, the economy. I think your 425 is support, 450 is resistance. Okay. But certainly, if I were going to make a trade here, I would lean to the long side, and not because I want to be a buyer of copper, but because it's been pretty much oversold. And I would think there'd be at least a rush. What is the silver gold ratio? What is it now? It's 35 divided into $2,750, about 90 to 1. Okay. I mean, it's supposed to be 15 to 1. It's like 90. Okay. In the grain markets, they've been pretty soft and pretty weak. We would be looking to be long wheat, but we're flat. Again, you're very oversold. I think that $5.65 to $6. Corn, which we've been short for a couple of days, I would look at $4 to $4.20. And soybeans, which we've been flat, I would think you're looking at $9.60 to $10.20. Okay. Now, if they take them down hard, I'd be certainly look to be a potential buyer. Again, I'm a big believer in commodities, not equities, but in commodities, when they take them too sharply, okay, they're invariably going to pop. Okay, there's an old saying in the commodity markets: low prices cure low prices, and high prices cure high prices. And I have no doubt that if you can get into a market that is extremely oversold, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get a pretty good pop to it. Okay. We don't trade cattle anymore. I do. I'm still short. I'm still short it. Okay. And I'm still saying that the top is in. Okay. And that's where my cover is, over that line is where I'm out. Okay. But I've been short from around this level. Was too greedy to take it off. But I think those of you who traded 186 to 190, feeders, which I do not trade, but I'll say the same thing about those, but those are 244 to 252. So I say that almost every week. Those are the same regular levels that we've been watching. Hogs, to me, now I got out of mine. I was long, as you know, I was long them all the way up. Okay. I got out. Okay. And if they go up one more day, I'm going to get short, but not because I want to be short and not because I think that they're in trouble. I just believe that they're extremely overbought. And again, I could see a pullback to 78. I think that support and resistance right now has got to be, 83. Again, there is really no number because we're breaking out. Okay. But certainly I wouldn't get short yet, but I am certainly going to, I certainly did take off my longs. Okay. Because again, the extreme overbought conditions, and I'm just looking for a spot for a quick scalp to the short side. Does that make sense? Okay. I mean, this applies to all markets. It doesn't matter what chart you're looking at. When you see a chart that is extremely extended, okay, in either direction, you should look to take the opposite side. Natural gas, it's amazing. Sparked up. Now we're flat. We don't have a position in it right now. We would be long. And I'll be looking here again. I'll be looking for a spot to get long. Now, everybody know why natural gas is so low right now for this time of year? Anybody got any guesses? Any clues? No demand. It's warm. It's other than Las Vegas, where it was 40 degrees this morning. They asked me when I was on TV this morning, why am I wearing a turtleneck? I said, because it was 40 degrees when I got up this morning. Okay. So this is first of all, this is a very high risk trade for those of you who don't trade it. Okay. But certainly, if you're willing to take some risk, you could be rewarded here because we don't have to stay in this mild conditions forever, and you could get a very big pop here. Okay. Couldn't type fast enough. What's up, brother? How are you, Captain? What's going on? My real captain, my chauffeur captain. How are you? What's going on? 75 in Ashland, 84. Yeah. And listen, it was warmer. I played golf over the weekend. It was warmer in Chicago than it was here. Okay. So I think you're going to get a big pop here. And I would be looking again, it's a high risk product. Okay. But if you have the capital and you're willing to take the risk, I mean, I'd be looking maybe even tomorrow. Okay. But in the meantime, from a level standpoint, I can't see them going much below 215. They could, but I would think that would be pretty solid support. And I think your first stop should be around 260. I'm glad you're here. I'm waiting for you guys to come out to Vegas and visit. Crude, a little bit of a bounce. I mean, again, it's really not doing a lot, but certainly it should be a lot cheaper. And maybe you can answer this question for me. Okay, you got to ask me that later, but that's a piece of shit. UNG. Okay, it's a piece of shit. It's a horrible product. Okay, but I got to ask you a question. We're producing more crude oil in this country than ever before. Of course, we're exporting all of our crude to China and other places, and we're importing from OPEC, which means we're paying twice as much as we should be. Can you tell me why that is? If anybody can tell me, you're the guy who can tell me. And I'm referring to my personal captain who flew me to Nebraska. Can you give me that answer? I've asked it a couple of times, but I have not got an answer yet. So I'm hoping you can be the one who answers it. The big guy gets 10%. Producers make more money, of course. They make a lot more money. Okay. But somebody always says, well, our oil's too heavy. I said, well, we're not smart enough to build our own refineries here. Here we go. EPA regulations don't allow us to refine sweet crude, and we have to import the sour to use the refiner's capacity. Okay. So isn't that dumb? Okay. Anyways, thank you. I knew you'd have the answer. Okay. In the meantime, 68 to 72. No, it is stupid. Yes. You're not. I said I think I'm stupid. No, you're the guy I needed to ask this because I know you knew. Okay. But we can. Is it that hard? I mean, again, I don't get it. It seems like such an easy fix to me, and it's already been proven that all this environment shit is bullshit, anyways. Okay, you can see all the EV places going on because we're not prepared for the energy that they want to produce. Listen. You want to go all electric? Great. Fix the power grid, get everything done, and I'll live with it. But at this point, we can't even fix our infrastructure. How are we going to fix anything else? So, anyways, the softs I don't cover anymore, so I'm not going to unless you have one specific you want me to look at. But again, there's no reason to look at them. I mean, I will do this though. I promise you this: if I'm going to make a trade, okay, in the softs, I will let you know exactly what it is, but it will only be if something is way extended one way or the other. Cotton, I'd be a buyer. Yeah, cotton, I like cotton here. I said when it was 70, I want to be a buyer. I think that is real good resistance. I think it's 70. I think it's going to run to 75 and higher, but right now 75. To go all electric, it will take 2,000. I 100% agree. Listen, again, I'm not saying that there isn't some issues for the environment, okay? But I believe And from the scientists that I know, and I know some big scientists, they tell me they call bullshit on climate change. Okay. And again, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to say yes or no, but I get the words bullshit all the time on climate change. Okay. So again, you tell me. I don't have the answer, but I do have one answer. We do not have the capacity. We don't have enough capacity to take care of the electric cars that are on the road now. Coffee looks great, but again, I don't buy it up at these levels if I'm looking for a shot. It's 240 to 270. Okay. I got lumber. I forgot. So I don't even cover lumber. It's more of a bellwether of the economy. It really appears that this level here is pretty much resistance, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think I'm right in my read because they keep telling me how good the economy is, but lumber has fallen for the most part, certainly from above its highs. So I don't have the answer. Okay. Any questions on part one before I flip over to part two? No, those are real scientists that have been scientists for 50 years. Okay. You might know one of them. One of them was with what the hell's the name with an M? He's got 17 patents on things. The economy is all government spending and doesn't grow anything except the deficit. That is correct. Okay. What the hell's the name of that company? It starts with an M. Big science company. I can't remember now. A friend of mine used to own a lot of stock in it too. I'll get to the name for next week. I'm playing golf with him tomorrow. Okay. But he'll hold 17 patents on this stuff too. Okay. And I met him when I was walking into a casino. No. They're based in California. I forget. I'll get the name. I'll have it for you next week. But I'm telling you how I met him. He stopped me in a casino. He's probably 75 years old. He looked at me, he said, "I know you." I said, "The fuck you do?" Excuse me. Okay. He says, "Varney." I said, "Yeah, that's me." And he goes, "Why won't anybody ever talk about the bullshit on this climate change? It's not true. I can prove it to you." Okay. And he's been proving it to me ever since, or trying to. Again, believe as you wish. I don't begrudge anybody from believing whatever you want. Okay. But I believe that it's nonsense. And again, if you look at some of the other planets and you look at the numbers, especially Mars, which has an unbelievable CO2 level, and their temperature variance is 150 degrees a day. So anyways, I'm not going to get into it. I'm just giving you things that I hear and things that I believe. And others, you don't have to believe what I believe. I'm just giving you my opinion. Okay. Climate always changes, but not because of humans. All about government control. That's what I agree.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.